We are expecting Progressive Youth Alliance so that they offer messages of solidarity. We'll have the address by the president of SASCO. We are interested that the address by the president of SASCO receives an engagement from the activists. We'll have the cake cutting ceremony. Comrades. And then we close by announcements and a vote of thanks. The cake, I should make mention, this cake, comrades, the intention of the organizing committee was that it would be donated eventually. So cutting it doesn't mean having a slice of it. It would not necessarily. However, I think by the beautiful design, there are areas where bites, a bite, you can have a bite because you do see there we have, what do you call these things? Cupcakes. So you'll have a better taste of what the cake would have tasted like. So comrades, that is how our program for today will be like. Allow me, comrades, to welcome everyone who has come here today. Everyone, literally. And of course, our activists who are in their corners in the different campuses throughout the country, who are hard on campaigns for the SRC elections, who each and every minute they'll be observing this launch with enough spirit that the student movement has a very long journey with 33 years of its existence, with 100 years of the existence of the entirety of the student movement, the activism. SASCO is 33 years. It's 33 years old, but the activism by students in South Africa through a student movement. We are marking today that centenary. It tells you that from one stage to the next, with whatever evolution that is taking place in society, student struggles are student struggles. Accessing institutions of higher learning and being able to succeed, being our primary struggle, broadening access. That has been our struggle because today you are able to access, but succeeding becomes a huge difficult given that the environment where you are in is not so conducive. So the evolution of the struggle tells us that we are still going to have maybe another 100 years, so long as conditions do not favor us. So comrades, we are here today to mark this very much important moment in history that we are celebrating. I think more than we're just celebrating the existence of SASCO, we're celebrating the 100 years. Decade by decade, generation by generation, there will be told stories of how this student movement evolved. So it is very much important that we know that you are in SASCO, and SASCO is existing because conditions placed before 1991, conditions placed before 1991 dictated that a student movement of this character, this formation, this character, has to come to existence. So there would have not been SASCO if there weren't previous student formations. I mean, that is so unscientific. So it is why then we said this month we're going to dedicate it. But the essence of all of this, comrades, the essence of it all is that we must make our comrades understand the necessity of the existence of this organization and why it is important that it has to continue to exist. Whether we lose or we win elections, that is a test of our relevance. Elections is a test, very important barometer to measure. Do students still see SASCO as a fighting force on the ground? So whether that happens or it doesn't happen, whether we win or we lose elections, there needs to be an existence of SASCO with the ideas that embody how we are supposed to propel our struggle. So, comrades, it is why it's very much important that as we go to our campuses and in our campaigns, we conscientize students about the importance of the legacy and the heritage of this student movement. It's very much important. Amidst the other formations that are there, which would not have the beautiful grounding of the history that SASCO has, we must be able to conscientize our own members, our own students, to understand that their heritage is SASCO. It is only through SASCO that the expression of our ideas can be realized. So that's why we're here today. We are here to launch our own anniversary. We're here to be proud of ourselves. We are here to embrace ourselves. We are here to strengthen ourselves. After these, comrades, as the announcements are going to come, you'll be told exactly which other successive programs are going to take place this month, led by the National Executive Committee. I have to move a bit quickly because we did not intend that our launch would take so much time. We didn't intend that. And I should make mention, because as this very same program director, I'm a recipient of correspondence with the Alliance and the PYA. We expected that we were going to be joined by the National Secretary of the Young Communist League, Comrade Mswandile Tahuti. We were supposed to be joined by the President of the African National Congress Youth League, Comrade Malaji, in this very beautiful cake-cutting ceremony. However, they have a meeting that they needed to attend to that is extremely urgent. So the time frames, but they'll be joining us. And of course, as and when they join us, we will still offer that platform for them to give the message of solidarity. It would be important that we just go straight to the message of the day that goes to the activists. And I'm reliably informed. Comrades, that the baton of the message of solidarity has been passed on to the National Executive Committee member who would be present. I am looking for my comrade. Comrade Eugene went outside. Oh, okay. Comrade Eugene, I think representing the African National Congress Youth League, we would get the message of solidarity. It's very much interesting because at the end of the day, you would have understood this organization perfectly. It's a rich history that you part of, you participated, and it would be good that at least our comrades, from the lenses of someone who's led before and now who is in the youth movement, would be able to share the sort of trials and tribulations faced by the students then and now. Comrade Eugene, please, the student movement is very much happy with your presence, leadership. I should stand down and offer this platform to you. Lom zabalazo dalam tanam waqalwa Lom zabalazo dalam tanam waqalwa Koko betu osunga Kalim tanam uzunga Kalim tanam uzunga Kalim tanam uzunga Kalim lom zabalazo Dalam tanam waqalwa Lom zabalazo dalam tanam waqalwa Amandla yeah leadership
Amandla awethu Amandla awethu thank you very much Comrade SG. My name is Eugene Manana, a former student activist, a former National Executive Committee member of the 20th and the 21st NEC, currently a National Executive Committee member of the ANC Youth League. But first, let me put a disclaimer, President, that the communique from the ANC Youth League through his Secretary General that the President is running late still stands. The President will be joining us later, hopefully, before the presser ends, so that he gives a directive and a message of support as the only commander of the ANC Youth League. But it would have been wrong that as a former leader of SASCO, as the SGF said, would not give a clear perspective of where we come from in terms of the student politics and student struggle. I think as we turn 33, it's SASCO that is turning 33, but the student struggle has more than 100 years in existence. And there are many things that have been achieved through the struggle of students back in the days of the apartheid era. We have seen the development of what we used to call technicons, which today is the TVET sector, which I think it has been at the core of SASCO for ensuring that there is serious transformation within the sector. Because SASCO has been very clear from day one that there should be no segregation between universities and the TVET sector. At the time, it was called FETs, which is why there has been a clear relations between the departments and SASCO. So it is important that as we celebrate these 33 years in existence, we also celebrate the milestones that we have achieved. I think SASCO has produced and has led a serious struggle in regards to the gender activism. SASCO has produced radical and firm women who have led the student movement, who are currently leading in the ANC Youth League, in the Young Communist League, and are also leading in continental matters and advocating for other people in SADC. We've seen it through the comrades, the former TG of SASCO, Comrade Precious Banda, and that is a mere example of the type of leaders that SASCO continues to produce. A number of young women and also young people who are in parliament are products of SASCO. Not only products of SASCO or only bench warmers in parliament, but they are chairpersons of portfolio committees. We've seen it, the former deputy president of SASCO, Comrade Tsakani, who's the first DSG of the ANC Youth League, is a chairperson of a portfolio committee. That shows us that SASCO remains the only manufacturer of products that are the future of our organization. Much more would be said by the president of the ANC Youth League. Ours is just to say that we wish that this 33rd anniversary launch will be the first step of many programs that are going to come and celebrate the success and milestones of young people and those who are students. And we continue to encourage ANC Youth League members and members of society to register in schools, to graduate in schools, and further their studies and become members of SASCO. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Eugene. Comrades, we're moving swiftly to receive the message. We're receiving the message that must reach each and every activist of the student formation in the breadth and length of this country. We must, of course, receive this message with an understanding that we have a vital task, we have an important task of protecting the legacy and the heritage of this organization, rebuild it. We have that task. So this message must not come and fall on deaf ears, but it's a message that must uplift us as we move further. The president of the South African Student Congress must please grace the podium so that he can deliver the message of the South African Students Congress.
Mandla, away too. Long live SASCO, long live. Long live SASCO, long live. Kulanjalo, SASCO, Kulanjalo. Thank you very much, Comrade SG, who happens to be the program director. Greetings to the officials of SASCO present here today and the NEC members of SASCO who are here. Former TG of SASCO, Comrade Precious Banda, former NEC member of SASCO, who's also the NEC of the ANC Youth League, former leaders who are here of SASCO, and of course members of the organization from branches. And also we want to greet everyone who's also participating in our platform. On behalf of the National Executive Committee, we are here today, and of course, as has been indicated, that we are launching a very important month of our program in relation to celebrating the life of our student organization, SASCO, and of course, the history of student activism in our country. I think it is very much important, comrades, to appreciate those who came before us and their role that they've been playing in ensuring that SASCO is able to reach 33 years of its existence. And many of comrades and other people have been written SASCO or dead in the past, but we're still existing and we're still very strong. We've shown our very strong activism in the recent elections in TUT, and we are urging all of our activists across the country in our branches to ensure that SASCO continues to play a pivotal role in ensuring that it addresses the challenges for our students, because that is the only way that we are able to ensure to enjoy hegemony if we are speaking about the issues that affect our students. The moment we begin to deviate from our core existence as an organization, it is when you're going to see SASCO losing its hegemony. But we can assure the people of this country that SASCO is going to live in the next 33 years. Even though some of us would no longer be in the organization, but we do believe that the capable young comrades who are joining SASCO are going to ensure that they take SASCO forward so that the next generation can be able to benefit from this organization as we have benefited also in terms of the struggles that SASCO has been able to achieve. Because the beneficiation, comrades, must not only be about the question of personal benefit in the organization. We must fight for broader struggles. We must fight for free education to be fully implemented so that all of us in this country, we must be able to benefit from that particular struggle. In 1829, the South African government established the South African College, now called University of Cape Town. The first post-secondary school education and training institution marked the beginning of what we now call higher education and training. The actions of the government were executed in order to increase the number of educated and skilled citizens with the aim of building a nation. One would exclude indigenous black majority for decades. In 1924, nearly a centenary later, the National Union of South African Students, NUSAS, was founded, aimed at representing and promoting the interests of university and college students. NUSAS was open to students of all races. At the organization's first inaugural conference in Bloemfontein in 1924, the following universities were represented: Pretoria, Natal, Wits, Rhodes, Bloem, Potchefstroom, and University of Cape Town. NUSAS, whilst progressive in its outlook, was dominated by white students who were removed from the realities of African communities. African students felt that they were marginalized within NUSAS and sought to express their voices and influence the student movement leaders. Leaders like Steve Biko, Bani Pichana, Patrick Lekota, and countless others who became exponents of the Black consciousness movement led a breakaway from NUSAS and formed what was called SASCO. In 1969, SASCO was banned in 1977 as part of the national crackdown in the aftermath of the June 1976 uprising. The Azanian student organization, AZASO, was launched in 1991 to fulfill the vacuum left by the banning of SASCO. It brought together the SRCs of black campuses. NUSAS was less affected by the 1977 crackdown, and it was still felt that black students had to organize separately to cater for their own specific conditions. AZASO became increasingly aloof from its black consciousness origins and sought to reflect the Javanizing of the package by changing its name to do more representative of the South African Student Congress, SANCO, to also reflect in its complete adherence to the Freedom Charter and the Congress movement led by the African National Congress. And led by the African National Congress was still banned. At the time, the ANC was still banned, of course, including other organizations that were fighting for the freedom of our country. SANCO identified closely with community organization as an active affiliate to what was called the UDF at that time. SANCO closely cooperated within NUSAS against the clerk education bill that intended to reduce subsidies to politically inactive universities. In February 1988, government banned a wide range of organizations, including UDF and SANCO. By this time, there was still an increasing joint action by both SANCO and NUSAS, recognizing the need for a single nation student organization to articulate student aspirations. On the first week of September, from the 1st to the 6th, 1991, more than 600 black and white tertiary students from 129 universities, technicons and colleges gathered at the Rhodes University ground to launch the South African Student Congress, gathered under the banner toward a single non-racial student organization. Delegates from SANCO and NUSAS spent long hours of heated theoretical exchanges culminating in the launch on the 6th of September of the gallant student organization, which has since been at the cutting edge of the struggle for the fundamental change of tertiary education. Since the launch of NUSAS in 1924, a new chapter of a true non-racial student politics was opened in 1991 when SASCO was formed. Today, we are gathered here to reflect on a rich history of the student movement, and that has ultimately led to the creation of our beloved organization, South African Student Congress. A gallant organization, the student movement has played a pivotal role in shaping a social-political trajectory of South Africa since its inception. Campuses across South African landscape were strategic at the center of activism and organizing against the gross human rights abuses and discriminatory practices implemented by the colonial and apartheid government. The student movement has produced countless political leaders and public icons such as the current president, Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, and activists from the University of the North, South African Student Organization, SASCO. Branch, former Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, who was elected as the Deputy President of SASCO Division at the University of Natal. Former Prim of Gauteng, Comrade David Makura, who is also a former president of SASCO, who is also a former president of SASCO. The current Premier of Gauteng, Panyaza Lesufi, who served as an SRC president of the University of Natal Durban campus as a member of SASCO in a branch. That is why we've mentioned that it is very much important to appreciate those who came before us, because they built a foundation for us to be able to inherit this organization. Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Comrade Nongeba Mhlauli, who served as a National Executive Committee member of SASCO. Deputy Minister of Department of Trade and Industry, Comrade Zuko Godlimbi, who served as a Western Region Secretary of SASCO in the Eastern Cape. And I remember we went to Vendor Congress in 2013. At that time, I was still a branch secretary of SASCO. Comrade Godlimbi, we happened to be supported by us to become the DSG of SASCO, but it didn't happen because of the then material conditions. Comrade TG will recall of indeed what was happening at that time. This is but a snapshot of the collective caliber of individuals that SASCO has produced over the years. Members of convocation are spread across the private and the public sector, tasked with shaping South Africa for the better. Today we celebrate the legacy of an organization whose obituary has been written numerously by the critics and yet very adverse predication, we continue to survive and thrive. SASCO regenerative power is rooted in its 100-year history of student movement that has continuously managed to adapt and develop and survive. Whilst at this historical moment, it is imperative that we seize this opportunity to express SASCO's perspective with regard to a range of socio-political issues facing higher education and training. On SRC elections, SRC election season is full swing in universities and TVET colleges across the country. The SRC election provides students with an opportunity to cast their vote for preferred representative. SASCO branches across the length of the country have been preoccupied with campaigning to ensure that students make their wise choice to vote for SASCO. We are, however, concerned at the state of political activism on campuses in the post-fees must fall era. As security measures, campuses across the country have become ultra-militarized locations, with many institutions increasing their budget allocation towards security and anti-protest mechanisms. Despite these measures, we still receive dozens of reports of students being robbed, sexually assaulted, and killed in campuses, residences, and commons. It would seem that the role of security has nothing to do with the well-being of students, but rather it is motivated by trying to keep university property at the expense of students' tuition fees. The post-fees must fall era has been marked by the unfair persecution of student leaders by university managers for university raising student issues. The era is marked by the deliberate reduction of powers of the SRC, including to be reduction of the budget allocated to students. In some of the institutions, budgets for watering and maintaining the grass around campuses supersede the budget allocated to the SRC. Deans, VCs, and directors of student affairs and government has surpassed the roles of SRC members, fashioning themselves as a voice of students, proposing and implementing policies that are far removed from lived experience of an actual student on a campus level. Since the university administrators masqueraded as the student leaders are responsible for implementing city policy intervention that bears no fruit in enriching campus life. One such intervention has been forcefully rolled out of an online elections. You know, comrade, what online election has done to this organization. And we have also pleaded with the university managers and of our government that when we conduct elections in the country, we don't use online. We think that it must be in line with what the IEC is doing in relation to elections, because there's many rigging that has been made during the online process, but we are unable to see when the voting process happens. Because even our people who have been deployed to observe, it's difficult for you to observe something that is online. But we are not at the same time, Comrade SG, saying that we must not be an advanced nation. We are not shying away from being advanced as a nation, but also must question the credibility of this election that has made SASCO not to lose campuses in the past. But this year, I'm sure that we're going to regain our strength and win these elections. SASCO, with the concern recently raised by the Parliamentary Subcommittee on Higher Education with regards to elections policy implemented by Institute of Higher Learning, Institute of Higher Education. The election policy, along with a host of other moribund policies and programs, have entrenched political apathy on campuses. The continuous dwindling of the youth participation in political processes such as elections are a product of the post-fees must fall era in higher education. Students are continuously warned against joining political parties, and student activists are utilized as examples of what happens to the political active through mass expulsion and suspensions. SASCO, as part of its wishes on its 33rd anniversary, calls for a national higher education summit to discuss and assess the state of political apathy on campuses. When one considers the global trends with regards to student activism, institutions of higher learning across the world are a central catalyst in bringing about social transformation in their respective countries. Universities across the world are bastions of revolutionary ideas. They are agitators for transformation and nation building. While many academics in universities advocate for a greater level of public participation in the political affairs of the country, they fail to implement their research findings and recommendations in the institutions where they have their tenure. Many of these progressive academics are silent. Watching a student activism butchered, campuses are turned into military bases, and social academics are perished. We call upon the newly appointed Minister of Higher Education to facilitate this long overdue national education dialogue to reasons our landscape and crucial to deliberate the attempt to quell political activism on our campuses. On the GNU, SASCO has long established a relationship with the African National Congress that is characterized by the complementary and contradictory interaction and engagements. The general election results saw the African National Congress dipped below 50% mark for the first time in the post-apartheid South Africa. Despite not receiving the majority of votes, the ANC refused to allow the country to descend in a chaos. It chose a path towards unity and inclusive governance, democratic governance. The establishment of the GNU acted as a bridge to overcome novel situations in the South African dispensation. The student movement has noted the numerous occasions in the commentary with regards to the composition of the GNU, questioning its effect on the strategic task contained in the National Democratic Revolution. SASCO has considered both sides of the discussions in relation to the GNU and has taken a position to support the ANC-led GNU on conditions that the GNU support initiative that seeks to widen access to higher education in South Africa. That is our conditions, comrade. But if anything has to do without what we are proposing as SASCO, it means that we're going to have a problem with the GNU. It must be noted that SASCO will regularly provide criticism where it deems that the ANC-led GNU is failing. As SASCO, we warn the new Minister of Higher Education to be conscious against any budget cuts related to a strategic department. We reaffirm our long-held contention that we cannot continue to cut budgets when the number of enrollment keeps increasing. It's the odd call that we've been making as an organization. And of course, even ensuring that we build more universities and expand our TVET colleges as to accommodate those ones who are coming from high school, because the majority of them, comrade, they don't have access because of the lack of spaces in higher education. And you find them being involved in drugs and all of those things. So we must be able to be concerned as SASCO because we are part of nation building. So we must be able to raise these issues that we have raised in relation to expanding the sector of higher education and fighting against neoliberal policies like cutting of budget and so on. On NSFAS, in our press conference hosted in January 2024, SASCO stated that it was aware of the numerous circulation reports of corruption at NSFAS. SASCO must first and foremost be noted as an organization that has on numerous occasions raised our grievances with mismanagement at this vital entity. These cries have often fallen off deaf ears and resulted in a dire consequences and the victimization of our activists. The dissolution of NSFAS board was welcome breath of fresh air and was in an indication of the Department of Higher Education's commitment to improve the governance of NSFAS. We call upon the HET to accelerate the pace of appointing new board to ensure a swift return of normalize operations at NSFAS. Prospective board members are warned that they should view their appointment as an opportunity to increase their bank balances, but rather as an opportunity to shape the future of this nation by ensuring that no student is left behind. After careful consideration, SASCO is convinced beyond reasonable doubt that the service provider-based payment system must be scrapped in favor of a direct payment system. We believe that if this creation of financial payment capacity within NSFAS is long overdue, the entity must be equipped to make direct payment to students, cutting out the middleman in a form of your Izakas and Noroko. Direct payment will disrupt the patronage system that's developed around the tender allocation process for executing payments. It will also ensure that payment failure can be traced directly to source as opposed to being sent to pillar to post. We also call upon all progressive students for 2025 and encourage them to prepare their documents for NSFAS applications period. SASCO is committed in rolling out community outreach programs in rural areas across the country to ensure that prospective students apply for NSFAS. We'll put up a massive fight to ensure that no single child is left behind. In conclusion, SASCO invites members of the media, convocation, and members to join its 33rd anniversary celebration that will be hosted across the country. SASCO acknowledges that, like any other progressive movement in the post-apartheid, we face a number of challenges. We are, however, determined to work together to solve all impasses and build a strong student movement that can be handed over to the next generation of activists. We wish all our structures well in their SRC campaigns, and would like to convey our congratulatory message to branches that have already secured victories. In this final moment, it is recorded the first president of SASCO, Stephen Bantu Biko, said for the following, and I quote, in a bid for change, we have to take off our cost, be prepared to lose our comfort and security, our jobs and our position, prestige and our families. A struggle without casualties is no struggle, close quote. SASCO NEC reaffirms its commitment to the struggle for free, quality education. We call upon activists to head to the words of our predecessors who equally traveled a road filled with persecution. We urge our activists to continue to struggle for ensuring that everyone, regardless of the class background, receive access and succeed in higher education. In closing, I would like to encourage all students in the various institutions across the country to vote for South African Student Congress and ensure that the interest of students is safeguarded by the only viable organization that understands the balance of forces from the lens of our microcosm. Vote SASCO, vote SASCO. Amanda. Thank you very much, Comrade SG.
Amandla, awethu, comrades, I think we've received the marching orders. Comrades. Our task is to constantly rebuild, constantly to build this organization. We have to assess and evaluate each and every time our shortcomings. But what is important is that we move forward. And there's no way that we can look back and regret the contribution that the former leaders have had and the impact that the former leaders and those who came before us had in this organization. Comrades, with us, we've just been joined by the national coordinator of COSAS, Comrade Scalo. We've just been joined by him, and without fail, we should inform that COSAS likewise is expected to celebrate with us the 100-year milestone of the student activism in South Africa. So it is very much important that before we were to go for engagements, we would manage protocol and allow Comrade Scalo to just offer a message of solidarity. You know what, comrades? We have a gift. It's a God-given gift, comrades, that today we have a walking dictionary, a living archive of SASCO in the form of Mam Doris. Mam Doris has been with SASCO since 1994. When we are cutting this cake, we're celebrating 33 years. But for the past 30 years, we've had Mam Doris as one of our admin secretaries here in the headquarters. Since Shell House, by the way, before coming to Lutuli House, the ANC moved to Lutuli House. So she's here with us. When we are cutting the cake, we will be led by the president, joining hands with Mam Mado. Affectionately, we prefer to call her Mado, a very friendly character who has no qualms of addressing issues because she has this memory of this organization, how it was, how it has been, and what it is like. It's a beautiful story to tell about this organization from a lens of someone who's been with us for over these years. So that is an appreciation we wish to accord to Mado. Of course, I also, given permission by her, President, to announce that we will do a proper, very beautiful, joined by our convocants. We are going to do Mado a proper farewell. She has indicated to us that it has been 30 years, my fellow comrades. I have contributed however I could, but the time has come that there be succession of whoever must come and then accumulate their own understanding of SASCO. But with that said, because I don't wish to waste much time, Comrade Scalo, my counterpart in the PYA setup, we would wish that you come forward. We are just managing protocol. Otherwise, it would not have been the case. Amandla!
Amandla, awethu, forward with compulsory universal equal quality and fair education for what? Forward with compulsory universal quality, free and fair education for all, forward. No, thank you very much, Program Director and Secretary General of SASCO. Comrades, I will not do as you would have requested. We will, of course, participate as and when you are going to engagements, because as much as we respect SASCO, we must also acknowledge that we were late and we cannot speak after the number one student has spoken. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Though I know Comrade Carlo, just besides the fact that he would rather refrain from the management of protocol, he actually wants to participate in the engagements, which is good because it will, of course, shed light to what would have been the message of COSAS. Comrades, it's only going to be one round. One round because we need this message as we are carrying it to our branches, as it becomes the main message during these elections. That is, what is an overarching strategy, political strategy of SASCO, which is informed by what background, which must be at the center of it. There must be anchoring of this message that we are because we come from here, and here is how we wish to move forward. So it's that kind of an engagement that must also, enrich this kind of message as we take it down to our structures, comrades. Just one round of engagements, which, well, number one would have been Comrade Carlo. Number two, Comrade Jam Jam. Number four, number five. All right. And of course, TG, the former Treasurer General of SASCO, will, as part of the engagements, shed light how to strengthen this fighting formation, comrades. Let me begin with Comrade Coordinator.
No, thanks very much.
Shop steward voice.
No, it's fine. The SG. We must first acknowledge and appreciate the anniversary message by the president. Comrade SG, my inputs or questions rather are not with regard to the presentation. I want to check, Comrade President and SG, together with your organizer TG, that what is the new struggle that we would have identified now with regard to the current system of education? We would have said, or they would have said when SASCO was formed, that they want free education. I mean, both SASCO and COSAS, all of us, we were rallying behind what the Freedom Charter would have indicated, of having a free, compulsory, universal, quality, fair and equal education for all. Now, by so saying that, is the education in tertiary level that free to a level where we can say, as SASCO, we are content? Of course, they might have introduced your NSFAS things, what. But my argument is, of course, is what we have raised in the presence of TG in the NEC, in the photo of the ANC, that this education is not free. And if we cannot push it collectively as two organizations, us in pre-tertiary level, or those who will need courses in tertiary level, and yourselves here in tertiary, to say we don't want these NSFAS things, we want a complete free education. Because I personally believe that a learner who went to grade 1 up until 12 was given meals for free. That person did not pay anything, to an extent that there is a policy of progression, a policy in tertiary level, a policy of progression to say you fail once, twice, the third time they progress you, what. But when you enter or when you venture in tertiary level, once you fail a particular number of modules, they are no longer funding you. It means you must now pay, you must do all those things.
was properly identified by Maurice. He says it's politically retarded stance. It means now we're selling education, which is something that we do not want. Why are we not taking everything we have and fight for a complete free education to an extent that we don't need we just want to go there for free because it needs some sort of what level complete in time. More like in your tertiary duration, you did not complete you were progressed at some point. Now that answers to the question. I believe Comrade TG knows that the same conference that would have been lectured here, I don't, maybe I'm kicking at me, the 2013 or before 2013, is it NGC or the conference that would have taken a decision that SASCO must subscribe to Marxism and Leninism as a tool of analysis? Now, with SASCO as a Marxist organization, I would say, we should understand that the class inequality in tertiary education, it is there necessarily because of the working class or of the ruling ideas in society that are shaped by the working class. And not the working class, rather, the capitalists. The capitalists, because they are the ones who are ruling in the society. Now, it means they would have shaped this education to meet the demand of these capitalists. Now, that's why everything we need to buy it. An argument we have raised of this management at university saying whatever that they said, I won't repeat it. It shows that there is that inequality and commodification of education at a higher level. Now, how then are we going to deal with that? Because it should be confronted. It should be confronted. The only thing that we'll hear SASCO saying is your birthday, you must not say this because it will sound somehow. But we need you, Comrade SG, the both organizations will not be there in COSAS at that time because next week we're giving it to its rightful owners. But we will need COSAS and SASCO to be able to save the African National Congress because it is only these two organizations that can prevent what is going to happen to the ANC. We know, it is common knowledge that the PAIGC of Guinea-Bissau, FLNLs of Algeria, CANU of Kenya, Congress Party of India, even ZANU-PF of Zimbabwe, these liberation movements in Africa, all of them are left with ashes of their former selves. Some of them we can read about, well, some of them look to now we don't want the ANC to face a similar fate that history learners can only read about. In fact, even in the history, it is not there. It is not there because the history that we are being taught in tertiary level is not that of South African history. So, Koseraore, after the death of the ANC, will never hear about it. It is only SASCO and COSAS that can prevent that from happening. Why am I saying so? Because if today you can have 500,000 members of SASCO solid, today or this year, you can have 500,000 members of SASCO. Of course, you have that capacity. It means you have more than 200,000 of activists that are going to campaign for the ANC in the next general elections. If you can have more than 2 million learners joining COSAS today, it means you have got more than 1 million learners that are potential voters of the ANC in the next general election. Now, that's why we need to make sure. I'm bringing about two things, the education thing and the organizational thing, because as and when we're bringing this thing of education, we must also not forget the fact, Comrade Chair, that the restoration of moral values of this movement should be at the center of all these things. Because one can say the entirety of the PUI do not have real organization. We don't have branches that which we really do not only limited to us and yourselves. The whole of PYA, your YCN, your Youth League, your SASCO, your COSAS, there is no, it is an organization of leaders. These are organizations of leaders. Now we need to create an organization of membership, because the level of political understanding by membership and the depth of political maturity by leadership is one of the factors that we have contributed to or factionalism, parallelism, all these things are as a result of the lack of political understanding and the depth of political maturity by leadership and membership. In both ways. Let's identify a struggle. What are we pushing for? Of course, there are many documents that we just have to say we need compulsory, free, equal education. We identify that, we do it together. On the other hand, the restoration of moral values of the movement should also be at the center of all our. Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Comrade Carlo. We welcome the message of solidarity. We welcome the message of solidarity. My number 2 was there, yes.
No, I think mine is very simple, right?
And we must understand, it must be very simple as I put it, because that was a message of solidarity. This is an engagement, which at least just getting straight to, you know.
Thank you so much for the question. I think mine is very simple. We need to, I have a question. What is it that you are complementing with the ANC in this day and age? Because as a young activist, I'm very much concerned that our material conditions are worsening each and every day, more especially the issues that students are facing on a day-to-day basis. We find ourselves having to protest each and every year. Comrades are getting patched, but we still believe that we have to complement the ANC. I think it shows that our document, Comrade Nkunu once said that our documents are very much outdated, because I believe that this stance of saying that we're having a we have a complementary contradictory relationship with the ANC is not really relevant in this day and age, because we are currently in a GNU. And are we really going to have a complementary contradictory relationship? Because the ANC at this point, more especially with this GNU, I do believe that it is not representing the views of the people of South Africa. So I want to ask, what is it that we are complementing with the African National Congress in this day and age? And shouldn't we then sit in National General Congress, whereby we are going to actually speak on the issue and address the issue on, is it still relevant in this day and age? Thank you so much, SG.
Yeah. You are the third?
Yeah, you are.
No, thank you very much, Comrades SG. My name is Justino Mbiza, candidate number 20. I'd like to firstly say, Comrade President, you've mentioned that when I was in grade 4 in 2013, you were the branch secretary. I'm inspired by the commitment and dedication to the organization. So my question is that, Comrade President, you have mentioned that we are against the neoliberal policies, such as cutting the budget in the sectors of education. Now, my question is that, what is the mandate in these unreasonable prices that increase every year in the institution? That's number one. And what is the ANC saying about that? And is SASCO calling for the increment of NSFAS, or is SASCO calling for free education, just like the address that we got there from the leader of the COSAS? Thank you.
Malibo. Ikamala Makosigazi. Thank you so much, comrades. My name is Nozibusiso Mbalta, the branch secretary of VET SASCO Education Campus. Candidate number 19. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to ask, and my question is stemming from the comrade of COSAS. What is really our struggle, and what is the struggle that we have identified in the new education system? Trying to understand the vision of SASCO, trying to understand where what is the vision currently as we are celebrating the 33rd year of SASCO and 100 years of student activism and struggle? What is then going forward? What is our vision? Where do we see ourselves as SASCO? What do we want to achieve through the lenses of our tools of analysis? Because Karl Marx does speak about 5 stages of development. He speaks about communalism, he speaks about colonization, he speaks about slavery, he speaks about feudalism, and then capitalism. And these are the 5 stages that society has went through. So through his historical materialism analysis, how do we then interpret it in the 33rd year anniversary of SASCO? Where do we see ourselves? What do we want to achieve? And how do we implement the tools of analysis that we have adopted as SASCO? Thank you.
All right. It would be the TG and an honorary input by the Treasurer General. Comrade, but yes, yeah.
I must do it. You forced me to speak now.
We came to support and not to speak. And sometimes we must dispel the notion that when former leaders show up, they want platform. I was enjoying the deliberations that are happening here. But let me take the opportunity to congratulate your collective, Comrade President, for the 33rd anniversary of the gigantic student movement, the biggest student movement in the continent, and arguably in the whole globe. Because we don't know of any student formation anywhere under the sun that has mobilized and coordinated students in the manner that the South African Student Congress has done so. So we want to wish you well. But as you presented a very good input, gave historical background, and spoke to your contemporary issues. I was impressed with that. It's a well-prepared address in the manner that we know SASCO to do things. But beyond that, that I think begs for further reflection among yourselves as members and the leaders, and also as you prepare for your congresses, is a conversation around the renewal of the organization. That the SASCO of 2013, when we were getting elected, the SASCO of Spiwe Zuma, of Leanda Mapanga, of Babalwa, cannot be the SASCO of 2024. Because the conditions on the ground, the conscientization of the students, the moral fiber is no longer the same. The burden that SASCO has is how do you capture or recapture the imagination of the students today? How do you ensure that you still remain that first and best friend on campus of students immediately when they walk into an institution of higher learning? When you begin to speak about how fighting for a single coordinated education system, what kind of campaigns do you have that speak to the life of COSAS, but also go to SASCO, both in the TVET and also the centers that have been the education centers that have been around that we leave behind, the community centers, students that are rewriting and so on, because that's where SASCO begins to recruit. So SASCO during my time would actually have a joint program with COSAS to go to high schools, to go and speak to learners, to prepare them of the journey, especially those in matric. How do we ensure that we reach them before they even walk on the door or a gate of a university or a college. But how do we ensure that colleges become institutions of choice and not just some inferior institutions? That the reskilling that we need today, where we speak about skills shortage, institutions have been set up to respond to that. The TVET colleges, how do we enhance and ensure that they achieve that by making them institutions of choice and making them institutions that are equal, including compared to any other institution of higher learning? The other thing is about how, because SASCO is not a youth organization, it's a student organization. How do we ensure that we recruit the different demographic institutions of higher learning, being the young students, the older students that are doing their PhDs, the older students that are doing their masters on campuses? How do we ensure that when we sit in a meeting of SASCO, it reflects the demographics of students of all institutions of higher learning? In terms of how we organize on campuses, are our branches in institutions of higher learning having those weekly meetings they should be having to ensure that there is enough platform created for conversation, for different views? Because once branches cultivate an environment where they can differ, you strengthen the unity of the branch. They meet weekly. They don't meet because they must elect candidates. They don't meet because they must elect delegates to conferences. They meet because the organization must live beyond the SRC election. The organization must live beyond the election of their leaders. Are we having branches that are doing those? The SASCO for a time said we are members of the community before we are students. Do we reflect about the fiber of community that we have, the challenges of community that we have as students in campuses, and also coming up with campaigns that we take to the community as those advanced that have been given a chance to be in an institution of higher learning? There are many debates today that take place in South Africa where SASCO has no view. What has gone wrong? SASCO, in its reflection of renewal, must make sure, comrades, that it repositions itself back into the center of debate, but the leader of debate in the country, where advanced and superior views and logics are presented to society. Debates around migration, debates around foreigners in the country. What is the view of the student movement that accepts foreign students on campuses to join? What is SASCO saying about that? How does SASCO persuade society to analyze its problems from a class perspective, but also a solidarity perspective of Africanness as part of what SASCO is with a Pan-African outlook? Those conversations SASCO must lead. NHI has been here. Students are going to be the greatest beneficiaries. Where's SASCO in the conversation around the NHI? Issues of budget cuts in the education sector and all sectors where the working class and the poor mostly benefit are taking place. Where's the student movement? So there are a lot of examples we can give. And what has distinguished us, and they said we have a SASCO DNA. And the DNA has always been because of our ability to articulate and interpret and characterize issues of society and also of the higher education trajectory. So our plea as eldership is just to say, we really wish you well, and we hope a conversation around renewal takes place and that SASCO continues to provide direction and to lead as the only factory of intellectuals in the movement. SASCO must reclaim its space. There's a lot of mediocrity going on. There's a lot of lazy arguments, lazy intellectualism that is taking place in the broader movement in terms of how we analyze society. SASCO, it's a sign of the weakness of the student movement. So the student movement must reclaim its space, and it is yourselves, through your renewal conversations, that are going to ensure that the space that you have won in the past 3 years is retained, regained, and direction to society, characterization of our current times. The last one, the GNU. What are we saying about the GNU as the student movement? But also the conniving of different forces. What are we saying as the student movement post the election? The loss of support of the ANC below the 50% threshold. What are we saying about that? What has been happening, I remember in our SASCO, far left, center right, what would characterize all these movements like that as SASCO? Are we able to characterize the players in the political space today and to know who's where on the ideological terrain, and who then becomes a friend or a no friend of the movement? And then how do we advise the movement in the defense of the National Democratic Revolution to pursue friendships with? So it's your fault you said I must speak, but I'll just end here. I appreciate and I wish you well. Happy birthday, SASCO.
One of the things that had to happen was for TG to relive a moment where in SASCO you would have even been scared to contest a leadership position, because in any conversation that will be taking place, whoever is presiding over that discussion will just say, stand up and speak. So you'll be worried that, should I contest a particular position because it seems like my views are not properly sharpened? And part of the announcements that will be made, TG, is going to be that a conversational journal has to be revived in the student movement so that discourse takes place. However, comrades, our primary struggle is that of achieving free quality education in institutions of higher learning. Because that will inform the kind of transformation we seek to see in the higher education sector. But as you'd have been knowledgeable about the engagement between, in the context of the strategy and tactics, free education is our strategy in transforming the higher education sector. We have tactical problems, and which it makes it difficult, and for some reason, it contributes largely to the weakening of the student movement. It has been identified for some time, that which is institutional autonomy. Institutional autonomy presents itself as a tactical challenge, because through institutional autonomy, it means then there's no viable platform for us to generate the necessary gravitas for us to pursue our struggle. What do I mean by that? Just recently, last year, UCT and VETS, the SG of the ANC retweeted a post in support of SASCO to win elections. We were engaged by our comrades that can we engage the SG of the ANC that must remove that tweet, because that will be in stark contrast with the elections regulations. And of course, that is disturbing, very much disturbing, because it means now there are stringent regulations in these institutions, which for some reason the target is to weaken student activism. So part of our interest to celebrate this 100-year milestone is that in our reflection, you must go through those decade-to-decade reflection, the evolution from one stage to the other. You find that there are elements quite similar to what is present before us today in the context of the power that is endowed to management of these institutions of higher learning. So it is us who have to correctly formulate a proper strategy that, working with the African National Congress, how do we end this nightmare called institutional autonomy? Otherwise, outside that, comrades, there's no way we can possibly generate the necessary support required. And we will not have, the next thing which is going to happen right now, they are going to say we can't access halls without seeking permission so that we can have proper dialogues on campus. You know, securities that are supposed to be in campus to ensure that students are secured from external criminal elements. They are just there to police whether are there any political meetings that are taking place in which hall, and what is it that is being discussed there. Is there a possibility of a mass demonstration out of those discussions that are taking place there? So this is nightmare of institutional autonomy that is causing that. And we have to confront it fast. With what has been presented by the president about online elections. Online elections, comrades, whether we do well, whether we don't do well, they are a cancer. They dilapidate the democratic process and exercise of voter education. That gets to be thrown out of the window because there's no proper contact with the people who you are supposed to be assessing your own progress as a student movement and the relevance that you wish to acquire. There's no that. So online elections are a product amongst many other problems of institutional autonomy, comrades. Added to that, we will never transform society because transforming higher education sector is not for its sake. It's because we want to what? Transform society, as stated by Comrade Scarlo, that the ruling class, the ideas of that particular time will be the ideas of the ruling class, and institutions of higher learning, what is being taught there will never be ideologically neutral. So, part of curriculum development debate is such that we need to temper to that space that what is being taught in these institutions of higher learning, is it in line with our preferred developmental agenda as a movement? We can all agree here that what is being taught there, it's in contradiction of the strategy we pursue in terms of what we want to achieve as a socio-economic development of South Africa. So we don't transform institutions of higher learning. Everyone, every young mind, when they go and acquire a qualification, they get certified so that they understand how a liberal society can live. With nothing contradicting that, with no other better version of how. So it's those things that, of course, we need to make it a point that we speak about them. We need to make it a point that we mobilize our students. And the last one, as part of our strike, and it's extremely urgent, is that we need to confirm to members and students that our intellectual capacity to diagnose problems of society has been weakened. The intellectual enterprise to assess and evaluate the progression of society has been weakened because we choose not to be a reading generation. That we're not a reading generation, we suffer the setback of not properly diagnosing problems and provide solutions. So, what is it now these 33 years will carry for us as a proper legacy if we don't fix that aspect? Would there have been factionalism? Would there have been narrow provincialism? There's something which has just came up in SASCO, provincialism, you know? Would there have been sections within an organization? Had it been that we have an overarching idea of what we want to achieve, which that idea would only be understood if we are prepared to be a reading generation. Would students understand our own identity? We have an identity crisis because we are unable to present to students who is this SASCO. That's why I will be asked, what is your... And the proper way to identify who is this SASCO is being able to table to students, here are our struggles, and they can identify with them. So it's part of that will mark this beautiful celebration, comrades, because throughout the month as we are gravitating towards our National Congress, it's the kind of conversations that we need to uplift. We need to bring back the culture of writing. We need that. We can't be excellent in writing, you know, colloquial English, you know, and colloquial language for purposes of insults in social media only. It can't. That we are best when it comes to verbal judo. Public spats were excellent, were exceptionally creative with the innuendos there, the sarcasm. But we can't bring all of that eccentric intellectual capacity to derive innuendos out of reading and then translate that in combination with your own reasoning and understanding of how does the society look like and write it down. We need to bring back the culture of reading. Comrades, I will allow the President, TG, Comrade Zandi, that at the best of our collective attempt, we would provide particular responses on how then do we see the message that was presented by the President and the engagements that came thereafter. Okay, TG.
Thank you, Nobala. Greetings, comrades, and thank you for honoring the invite of the celebration of 33 years. It shows that SASCO has had a journey. However, it doesn't end with us that are here in this venue. It doesn't end with the leadership that was elected last year to serve in this National Executive Committee structure. It's a baton that must be passed on because I'm sure, as you are aware where you are sitting, there are portraits of former leaders of SASCO that have sadly left us, that led throughout the years in the organization. Part of us celebrating the 100 years is to also commemorate the leaders that have contributed immensely to this organization. SG, I'm just gonna try to answer just a few of the questions. Particularly interested in the question posed by COSAS, which I think is a very important question when it comes to us articulating in this current epoch, what do we mean when we say that SASCO wants free, fair, quality education? And as I'm sitting here, I think I've tried to characterize it in just a few points that I think some of the ways that as an organization we continue the fight, because the fight has been happening, the progression in terms of how we've tried to acquire this free, fair, quality education. The first one would be the fact that it's very clear. We saw what could possibly happen if NSFAS, as one of the structures that was fought for by this organization, we had to deliberate. And as SASCO, we must make sure that it's not only protected and guarded, but also it is developed. Because as we understand the transition that has happened with NSFAS from 2018, if I'm correct, where students who entered after 2018 were then allowed to not pay, the tuition was not a loan anymore. So it goes to show that the progression of NSFAS is very necessary in our society. And us as this current organization of SASCO must ensure that it is protected and guarded from threats such as Norako, Izaka, and all of these other external companies that have tried last year to destroy what has been fought for by this organization. As you spoke about institutional autonomy, comrades, and I feel like it's one of the elements that seeks to depoliticize our institutions, because we cannot exist in a society of public universities that have their own autonomy, can do whatever they want. They are headed by the Department of Higher Education for a reason. And as this organization must state it very clear that institutions are too free now. That is why they are trying so hard to exclude us from the spaces of participation. Stakeholders that are important in the institution include learners, which is the Student Representative Councils. Part of the reasons why we contest elections and want SASCO to be found in these areas of management that deal with the day-to-day issues of students. It is not by fault that every year we go to SRC elections, because SASCO must be represented there. And the type of leaders that we choose to form part of the Student Representative Council are the leaders that must carry exactly the mandate of the organization. There was a question that was asked about what is our complement to the African National Congress? What are we complementing? I think there's a lot to complement, comrades. In South Africa, you have a young person who comes from whether a township or a rural area. They go to a public school. There is a nutritional food that is provided for by the school. They do not pay school fees. They go to university and are funded by NSFAS. Of course, this is not a blanket approach, but it just goes to show that there's a lot that we need to be appreciative for. But there's one thing that we need to caution the ANC on, and it's the question that we must ask every time we engage with the ANC. What type of young person is the ANC's revolutionary program trying to bring up in South Africa? Because you'd have this very same young person who has received social grant from a young age, went to a free non-paying school, went to university, got NSFAS, come voting time at Anfuno Boni ANC. It's very different with when you look at other nations like Russia and China, the appreciation that the youth have for their government system or the government at that time. Why does it not translate in South Africa, where we have young people that are confused when it's time to go to the ballot as to who to vote for? However, the development that is happening in the country is right before them. That is why then, in the last Lekgotla of the ANC, when we engaged there, we said, what is stopping the African National Congress from developing a socialist, revolutionary curriculum content at a very young age? Yes, we have history at school, learners are taught history, but what is it in the content that does not allow young people to celebrate, honor the richness and history of this country, so that they are able to appreciate that the African National Congress is an organization that is a representative of the poor and marginalized in this society? Otherwise, the ANC is just an organization that gives young people that turn against the very same organization, because we must guard against just, yes, it's happening right before our eyes that the ANC has done so well in creating a middle-class majority. It must translate the realities that are happening in our country. People must have an appreciation of a government system that is representing them. Regarding the students that we represent, and this goes to COSAS, SASCO, and the Youth League as well. Comrades, we need to do extensive awareness in the type of degrees that exist within institutions of higher learning. Students need to understand that humanities degrees are not professional degrees, they are academic degrees. Engineering maths and accounting, there needs to be proper investment in terms of developing that sector, in terms of advancing students' understanding in that field. We're not saying students must not take these academic degrees, but they must understand that it's not automatic that when you finish your undergrad in sociology, politics, or philosophy, you get a job. It's an academic degree, meaning that there's a chance that you have to further your studies. And there might not be money to further your studies. There needs to be extensive education in terms of how young people understand what it means to graduate from high school going into university. The last one is, SG, I'm going to take on is, what is our new struggle? Comrades, our struggle is gender-based violence. Our struggle is unemployment in South Africa. Our struggle is the economic segregation that is happening in our country. The instability levels of the economy, how the economy affects us, because it comes back and affects us as young people. Our struggle is crime in the country. Our struggle is the education system that is not moving with time. Our struggle is that the world is shifting and evolving to the fourth industrial revolution, and majority of our society will be left behind. Our struggle is having a politically conscious youth in South Africa, and that is a responsibility of all of us. That the youth of South Africa must understand, must not be bored by politics, because politics are the basis of our existence in society, and they must understand that all of us must be involved in hands-on. Our struggle is the revival of SASCO, comrades. Last year, we were very disappointed and a bit demotivated when we were losing institutions. But the one thing that I always say about SASCO is that SASCO is the one organization that is able to fall and rise, because we are guided by the richness of the history that has existed that brought us here. And people, when we say that we don't only exist to contest SRC elections, it seems like a slogan we use when we are losing. No. Our comrades must be found in every strategic committee that is there in institutions of higher learning. SASCO must be found in every level and every corner. When you say the first friend on campus, young people that enter institutions of higher learning must feel it that SASCO is there. And to those institutions that are still going to SRC elections, we want to further encourage them that SASCO iyabuya this year. And we want to encourage all of our comrades and ground forces to not stop fighting for their space in these institutions of higher learning, because we've noticed that when these other student organizations enter offices, they don't even understand what it means to be a student representative when it comes to how they engage with management. They don't sit in committees that are progressive, that actually protect what has been put there by SASCO. Our comrades need to be found in those strategic committees, comrades. And it's upon each and every one of us to ensure that SASCO is alive and well. Amandla!
Amandla, thank you very much, Comrade SGTG. They've tried to cover almost everything, comrades. So I think mine is to just remind you, comrades, that the class struggle is the mother of all struggles. That is where we begin. Then, of course, there are racial struggles, gender struggles, you know, but the class struggle is the mother of all struggles. So what then becomes our struggle of today as SASCO is that of free education. There is nothing else. We have mentioned, Comrade Coordinator of COSAS, that the ideas of the ruling class are the ones that are dominant in society. SG has also alluded that in the space where we are located as SASCO, it's not class neutral in terms of what we receive as education. So it's not class neutral because they've got an interest of ensuring that they continue to maximize their profit in the interest of our people, the marginalized, in the form of student. It is us. So you will have campaigns that we must continuously have as part of ensuring that we conscientize our constituent about what we are fighting for as an organization. I think we must at least since we're celebrating the 3 years of SASCO, appreciate that there was a time, Comrade TG, where SASCO used to have national march each and every year to UN buildings or Department of Higher Education, just on free education. And at that time, the struggle was not popular. Many youth organizations at that time didn't understand what SASCO was fighting for. When there was fees must fall, they were then be able to come and say fees must fall without even getting to understand what we mean when we say free education, because what is important is the content of free education the SASCO is always explaining to society. So during the fees must fall, people came through excitement and all of those things. But SASCO has been consistently raising the issues of free education to say we want to have free education, both in terms of monetary aspect and both in terms of its content. We were unable to achieve the content because of the questions that were the class struggle that were mentioning. So we don't have to say because the class struggle is the mother of all struggle, so therefore must then defocus from free education. Where we're located at SASCO, but we also understand that SASCO before a student, we are a member of the community. So you can't isolate issues that we're experiencing on the campus level and issues that they were experiencing in society in general. Because universities are a microcosm of society, a true reflection of what is happening in society in general. So time, of course, will move, but without addressing the fundamentals of ensuring that our people in general have access to basic needs. And how then do we use education in order to ensure that our people have access to basic needs, shelter, clothing, and water, and all of those things. So we have not shifted from our struggle, comrades. I wanted to make that point, that many other issues may be identified on the campus level. New issues will come in, issues of NSFAS. NSFAS is not free education. But we believe that NSFAS is a vehicle toward what we want to achieve as an organization. So that is why when there's a question of budget cut on NSFAS, we characterize that as neoliberal policies because it's against what we want to realize as an organization in terms of free education that we want to achieve. Free education that will also benefit the majority of South Africans. So, SG, I think I wanted to make that point. Other than that, comrades have contributed immensely. That is the fundamental basis of why we exist as an organization. I thank you very much.
Amandla. Yes, comrades, we've arrived to the last item of our own beautiful program, which is the slicing of the cake. No, excuse me, the cutting of the cake. Yeah, slicing it might create a different impression that there are portions to be shared. No. Hence there's a cupcake on the other side, so that the material making that cake or the material used for that cake is similar. Comrade Mazet. Yeah, what we are going to do, comrades, first of all, I must highlight to you, as you see here, just on the sides of this table that is carrying the cake, comrades, or I would not have proper English to, but you understand what I'm trying to say. We have our fallen heroes, comrades. We have former leaders of SASCO at the level of the National Executive Committee, comrades. And it is good to interact with the history of SASCO because you would particularly know what would have been their rich contribution to the development of this organization, comrades. That side at the end, as I cannot see it, but it's Leander's Comrade Leander Mapanga, that side. Just next to Comrade Leander Mapanga, I believe it's Comrade Wanga Skila. Yeah, it's Comrade Wanga Skila. Next to Comrade Wanga Skila, it's Comrade. It's Cloud Kavane, yes. It's Comrade Leander Mapanga, it's Cloud Kavane. Comrade Leander Mapanga is a former president. Thank you, TG, you've just assisted. He's a former TG of SASCO, before this TG we have here today. When she was provincial secretary of Limpopo, Comrade, there's a beautiful story that you could get from Comrade TG Precious about the former Treasurer General, Comrade Leander Mapanga. You would remember that at the beginning of the year, we conducted a program as this National Executive Committee to commemorate Comrade Leander Mapanga. We went to visit her home and her last home where she's buried, and we provided a lecture. That lecture, by the way, is still there in our social media pages for you to interact and understand properly Comrade Leander Mapanga. He's a former Treasurer General of SASCO, comrades. Comrade Cloud Kavane is a former president of SASCO, comrades. There's a story again in the rich history of SASCO that you will learn in terms of the activism by comrade. Next to him, comrade, is a former deputy president of SASCO, comrade Wanga Skila. Comrades. On the next to him, this side, just this side, is this gentleman, former president of SASCO, the only president of SASCO, by the way, who passed away in office, Comrade Pavarotti, affectionately known by his comrades at the time as Comrade Pavarotti because of his rich charisma. But this is Comrade Spiwe Zuma. If you remember very well, at the beginning of the year, when we were welcoming students, the membership of SASCO back into institutions of higher learning, when we were celebrating our aggressive attempts to ensure that we broaden access for students through our colossal program known as a Right to Learn campaign, we did a Right to Learn campaign rally inspired by Comrade Spiwe Zuma, the late President Spiwe Zuma. Next to him, comrades, it's a former Treasurer General of SASCO. There's history attached to that, but the most notable one is she was the first one to be a Treasurer General 2 terms. She was the first one. And the one next to me is indicating to me that I must also mention that she's the second one now to break that particular record. She's a 2-term Treasurer General. Now, next to him, comrades, it's Comrade Khomotso. Comrade Khomotso is a former Deputy Secretary General of SASCO. Also, he passed on whilst he was still in office. We always advise our own comrades, to interact in safe spaces with caution. It is a scourge, by the way, beyond our leaders that we keep on losing students in our campuses. We keep on losing comrades, we keep on losing students. It's something that we just have to look at it because part of a loss of one person who would have impacted the number of people in society, it is a huge loss for us. But these are your former leaders of SASCO, comrades. We still have more. By the way, we in the process of the development of a portrait for the late Deputy President of SASCO, Comrade Buile Madiwane. who passed on during the tragedy, during that period of COVID-19. COVID-19 left us without a deputy president of the 21st National Executive Committee of SASCO. So, as we continue to commemorate these leaders, it is important that we get to interact with what a level of activism and what kind of contributions that they left for us in shaping this student movement. So this is very important for that to happen. Now, as I stated that we are going to do the cake cutting, I don't see Mado. Mado left. Oh, okay. Mado. Now, what is going to happen, this is going to be in 2 phases. The first one is that you will have a picture moment. Just, well, we don't all have to because we can always share amongst ourselves. Whilst we are waiting for the material that will assist us in providing shape to this cake, we'll have a picture moment. It's going to be just 3 minutes, comrades. You take a picture. Here's the leadership of SASCO. You take the picture, and then after that, we're going to toast. After that, we will cake cutting, comrades. By the way, because we are celebrating, we are in effect toasting to ourselves, to the student movement. Right? So instead of us carrying that thing with percentage for the toast, because you'd naturally toast 3 times, we will provide small cuts 3 times. That's just how we're going to do it, comrades. So that at least we bless the moment that is before us, comrades. So that is how, and this process will be led by the Treasurer General. The picture moment, and of course, the cake cutting itself. We may not all have access to the knife itself, but the larger part of it will be the president of SASCO. We may not all have that access to the cake. And then after that, comrades, we're just going to receive the announcements from Comrade Zandi, and then therefore we close from there, comrades. Tichi.
Okay, no, thanks, SG. I think we have enough cupcakes for everyone here in this room. President, I had hoped that the knife would arrive fast so that the first picture is the full cake in its entire formation. But comrades are taking a bit of time. But yeah, what's important is that all of the cakes have a SASCO logo. So comrades, this is how we are going to do it. We are going to do the toast and have the picture moment right here. We have enough cupcakes for everyone in the room. And then when we finish that, I'm sure the knife would have arrived. That is when the officials, including Mado and our former SASCO leaders, will then join us in front for the holding of the knife. I'm so tired of holding knives, SG. So yeah, comrades, I'm going to come that side, and then please everyone grab their cupcakes. We'll have a toast, get the picture, and then we'll start with the cutting process. So yeah, please just come down and get yourself 1 cupcake each.
Bingasiyoni nhloso yosishiya kwakhe hamba kerela Yoliwoli Pambele chimurenga Pambiringe wondo Yoliwolo Tien Tena sipeta maakra. Tena sipeta machimurenga. Sipeta maakra. Sifunugulwa. Tena sipeta maakra. Tena sipeta machimurenga. Sipeta maakra. Sifunulwa. Hiti woza woza sambe. Woza woza sambe. Sondela kerela. Hiyo liwo. Au. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, SASCO. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Amandla. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
SASCO, SASCO.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Come here, son.
Ole, ole.
Happy birthday.
Manda. Awethu. Happy birthday, SASCO. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, SASCO. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Kula SASCO. Kula.
Kula.
Kula SASCO. Kula.
Kula.
TG, what must I do?
Hosting President Kulu SASCO. Happy birthday, SASCO.
SG, can you lead this process? I'm going to hold a knife.
We are going to do 3 toasts, comrades. So that means we are cutting once with Madu. We're going to cut, not going to cut once, we're going to cut 3 times. There, here, and here. So the first toast, comrades, goes to the 100 years of the trials and tribulations, the struggles faced by the students of South Africa. That 100 years which has a rich legacy that we need to protect at all costs, and it must never be lost in the memory of this country. Yeah. So let us toast to that. The second toast, comrades, goes to the 1991, our 1991 major Congress that was in Rhodes, that today we would have been receiving had it been that we had a time machine. The closing address from President Robinson Ramaite would have issued and marching orders as what would be the new South Africa. How does the South Africa led by students, through the ideas of students, how it would look like? So we are toasting to the 33 years of the existence of the gigantic student movement. The last toast, comrades, is about the contemporary struggles of students. It's about the students facing mental health, our battle against the scourge of gender-based violence, our forever struggle to achieve free, quality education. And that, comrades, we are toasting to the defeat of the current challenges that are facing students. Mandla! Aweto! Mandla! Thank you very much. TG. Okay, President.
Thank you, SG. Comrades, I think all of us have a cupcake in our hand. So for the picture moment, we're just all going to raise our cakes and say happy birthday, SASCO. And organizer also happy birthday, SASCO, happy birthday! Happy birthday! Happy birthday, SASCO, happy birthday! Happy birthday! Kula, SASCO, kula! Kula! Amanda! Thank you very much, comrades. We can move back to our chairs.
Amanda, Aweto, comrades, my job is to do announcements. As we all know, we're still in the SASCO man. So on the 20th